Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Scott Wurzbacher, and today we're going to talk about becoming fearless. When we listen to the voice inside that calls us to adventure, we often have to confront fear in the process. And today's guest is going to show us just how that's done. I have with me Jermaine Andre, martial arts Hall of Fame inductee, two-time world champion, UFC vet, 5-time U.S. champion, author, teacher, and mentor. Jermaine is from St. Louis, Missouri, and he's a pioneer in professional mixed martial arts, or MMA for short. He's got 7 competition titles competing around the world. And today, beyond his MMA career, he continues to share his gifts by educating people about the practical and reliable use of MMA for self-defense, fitness, personal wellness, relationship bonding, life structure, and fun. Jermaine has an incredible story full of adversity, overcoming challenge, and confronting fear. Jermaine, welcome to the campfire.
Thanks for having me on, Scott.
Man, we got a lot to cover, and this is going to be, I'm so excited about this conversation. I have been studying your website and reading your book, and man, it's just packed full. And I think we just need to dive straight into this idea of fear and overcoming fear. And so I just wonder for listeners, if we could just go right to kind of Jermaine's early life and some of these first experiences of experiencing this thing called fear.
Main thing I can remember as a little kid, and you don't quote me on the age, it's been a long time. I mean, 8, 9, 10, 11 years or somewhere in there, but small enough where I was at day camp and I stepped on a hornet's nest, the ones that's in the ground, whatever, the big, nasty, mean ones. And they came out and attacked me, my friends and I. And I was at camp, and I had an older brother who was at camp with me. And so I'm running out, get stung, just get tore up by these hornets. And we ran out to the camp counselors. And as I was running to the camp counselors, I saw my brother. He came running towards me, and he actually ran into the swarm of hornets, ran into him. And he's attacking the hornets. He's smacking them, knocking them out of the air. Hey, he said, hey, that's my baby brother. Like he's talking to human beings. That's my baby brother. Da, 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 da. And I remember even seeing him. He smacked one of them and knocked it on the sliding board. And he's over stomping this hornet on the sliding board, just stomping these hornets. And, and then I look, and these hornets are running from him. He's chasing them back into the woods, So I'm seeing all this, and I make it to the camp counselor, and the hornets, they're backed off. Oh, we outran them finally. And the camp counselor check us. Now, I got stings everywhere. My friends are stung everywhere. My brother did not have one sting on him. Not one sting. So that right there, that kind of stored in my core. As a kid, when I saw that, I said, he wasn't afraid. So not only did he run, the hornets run from him, he was beating up hornets, just knocking them out of the air. So that really stored into me to say, man, you can never be afraid of anything. If he made these creatures that you can't even communicate with, run from him. And I really understood that at a really young age. And I think I attribute that to a lot of my fearlessness.
The hornets could smell fear. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
How did your brother become fearless?
I have no idea. I can't say. That's just, I think he was just protective of me.
I think he was protective of you. And that's, from what I've kind of come to gather, that need to be protective, that desire to be protective has also fueled you.
Yes.
And you've had a lot of adversity in your younger years that has led you to kind of where you are today. And there was a lot of fighting in your younger years. I wonder if you could tell us about that.
Too much fighting. I was always the guy who, who stood up to the bullies, and I was, martial art trained at a young age. And I was a big Bruce Lee fan, watched all his movies, super athletic. I was one of those guys with, just born with super DNA. Mm-hmm. And I can remember 8 years old, my parents bought me, I don't know if you probably remember the old weights They were concrete with the plastic on them.
Yeah.
Parents brought me a whole way, put it in the basement, and said, "Go lift weights." And I just started teaching myself and practicing, and I just picking stuff up. So I was always strong, always athletic, and whenever somebody would mess with my friends or anything like that, we get in the fights. And I can recall even a time, and probably paying back my brother, saving his life. And I was probably about 10 or 11. He's probably 12 or 13. I would say he's probably 12, so I was probably 10. And we were playing at a playground, and we got into it, or he got into it with some adult men. I'm talking 23, 24. And one of the men picked up a old fence post. You remember the chain link fences?
Yeah.
Main post, and it was dug up, and it's got the concrete on the bottom because they have to pour concrete on it. And he picked this big heavy post, was walking slowly up behind my brother. Well, I used to always carry nunchucks.
Yep.
But when I was a kid, I was getting trained a little bit in martial arts by some. I had uncles and friends, my friends' dads, who were old Vietnam vets. So they were kind of crazy about the martial arts. So one of them, he saw how good I was getting. He made me some nunchucks, drilled out the bottom of it, and put lead in them, and said, "Start working these, to make you strong." And so I got these big, I'm this little kid just working these, and so I would carry them with me like Bruce Lee. I'm trying to be like Bruce Lee, and I got him in my back. I'm just having fun, showing off with him every now and again. So I see this guy coming up with this pole behind my brother, and I'm like, I'm trying to calculate, is he getting ready to hit my brother in the head with this thing? And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, yes, he is. I read it. I can look at his expression. I can see that. And I imagine my brother falling, bleeding, and dying.
Yeah.
And so I said and I remember it went through my head. I said, what would Bruce Lee do right now? And I said, he'd hit this dude with the nunchucks. So I pulled the nunchucks out, and I just as hard as I could and cracked the guy. I hit him again, and he dropped, and he's got blood, a little bit of blood coming. He's holding his head, screaming. I'm like, wow, it worked. And so we ran off. We ended up getting away, went home. The cops came later, stopped by our house. And, of course, they didn't get us. We didn't get in trouble for it. They ended up, the other grown men who started got in trouble for, harassing kids like they were. So I kind of, at that moment, I was actually traumatized by that. A lot of people, they don't understand that.
Yeah.
That scared me to death that my brother, I had nightmares of him dying over and over and over. So then that developed this thing in me where I said, okay, the martial arts is not a game. This stuff is real, man. This is not fun. If I didn't have those nunchucks, my brother would be dead. And that mentality got in my head. I said, I'm never, ever, ever going to allow anyone to hurt my brother or my sisters first. If I smell danger or see it, I'm bringing it to them, death or not. And so that was kind of how I started off at a young age, just being worried that something could happen to somebody I care for. And that really made me a super protector.
Yeah. Jermaine, like where you grew up, I mean, it seemed like this was pretty common, like just kind of fighting. There was a lot of it going on in the neighborhood, and a lot of it seems like it was, you're fighting and there's physical contacts and striking and there's blood and but it seemed like there was almost like a camaraderie around it. It was like, there was almost like gentleman's agreement around it. Like this was just kind of what you guys did growing up, and it was okay. And there were some like understandable rules. Is that?
Yeah, there were, I'm gonna say sometimes you'll see when you start reading Muay Tiger.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was bad life and death stuff against true enemies.
Yeah.
But most of the time it was just, especially like even when I moved to Wyoming, and even in St. Louis, I would always win and beat up everybody. There wasn't a time I lost, and I'm not bragging, it's just the truth.
Right.
Because I ended up, when I went fight pro, I ended up getting my butt kicked a couple of times, and so it happens. I just hadn't met my match yet, but I was just strong and I was quick and I was serious. At that age, as I was coming up, nobody was as serious as I was because I wasn't playing. I knew what could probably happen. So I was coming with this force that people couldn't understand or handle. But yeah, I had many times, the fight would happen. Then after the fight, you become friends. I've even had guys, I know when I was in Wyoming, I fought probably 4 or 5 times in the streets, fighting cowboys. It was just, people just getting into stupid stuff, kid stuff. And I'd beat this guy up. So then they get their better friend. Then I beat him up. So then they fly their cousin in from Montana, and I beat him up. And then they fly in and he's great. Then I knock him out. And so it was always just turning to that. And this is one of the greatest things. The main guy, the last guy I knocked out was supposed to be the toughest guy. This really, really tough guy. We got into it, and I ended up dropping him. And after I ended up going to prison. I went to prison. He came to prison, and ended up being one of my best friends in the world. one of the nicest guys you ever meet. Hilarious. I mean, just the greatest guy in the world. Big lesson for me because I felt bad. And of course, when he started the fight with me because he was flew to town to fight me. And I was trying to leave us get away, and he started with me. But still, it showed that you let all these people aggravate something that's not even true. Here's two guys we connected alone, away from everybody. We became best friends. I mean, I still, I'm not gonna say his name, or I still remember when I love that guy to death. If I seen him right now, we'd hug each other, and I mean, we probably would never separate again as friends.
Yeah. So it seems like, there's a whole side of Jermaine and this kind of life of like self-defense, protecting yourself, fighting, where there's like a camaraderie. It's almost kind of like a game, a competition. But then there was a time and I'm wondering if it's this time where these older men with the fence pipe, is that when it kind of became real that this is not a game, and it's, there are situations where there's like real life and death self-defense?
Yes, that's when it was real. Of course, there were other times when people pulled weapons on me. Like I said, I was, and I even say this now, I say, being trained in violence allows you to stop violence. And even when my younger days, 15, 16s, that people pull weapons, even guns. Well, as soon as they pull it, I was right on them. And the fact that I could do that and drop and take the weapon from and throw it, I stopped that from becoming something deadly. I stopped that even from me having to, use lethal force on them, because they pull it. Oh, I got to pull mine because I'm scared. Bow, and I got to blow this guy away. When they would pull a weapon, I knew I was so quick I could fight, and I wasn't afraid. So I just take it to them, disarm them, and they're down hurt. Now they get to live another day. So I started kind of learning that subconsciously in my earlier years. And I really, really didn't even understand it until I actually had an incident when I was in prison where a guy snuck up behind me and attacked me with a weapon from behind. And he didn't get me down. He actually cracked me in the head with something that busted my head open. But, I'm the hardest person in the world to knock out. My mom always said my head's so hard, it could break an anvil. You know what I'm saying? And so he hit me, and I heard it. And then I felt blood, and I turned around and looked, and he's standing back there with this, he had a big giant padlock on the weight belt. He's looking at me like, what the? Come here. And I pulled him in myself, and I beat the dog crap out of him. Well, while I was beating him down, I was saying to myself, hey, and this guy was, he's affiliated with one of my greatest enemies, which I'm not gang affiliated and never have been gang affiliated, but he's affiliated with somebody who just don't like my kind. And so I'm saying, this is my opportunity to get rid of one of these. He just attacked me from behind with the weapon in my cell. There's no cameras in here. This guy, and it's over. And when I looked down to take him out, all I saw was a hurt being, just a hurt person who actually needed protecting from me, because I knew what I was capable of. It was really weird. I felt that, and I seen that, and I looked, and I said, I can't. And I actually felt sorry for him,
Yeah.
So I said, man, can you get up? Can you make it back to your cell? And he looked at me, just kind of, yeah, man, I can't. Thanks, man. Thanks for not, and he thanked me for not taking him out. And I helped him up, took him back to his cell. Well, man, that guy ended up becoming friends later, so I learned so much, because you even say, this guy, he was affiliated, and he was just doing what he felt he had to do because I was the top dog at that time. And, you got to take Jermaine out of this, and that, and when it came down to it, one-on-one with each other, without all of that crap around us, we're friends,
Hey everyone, it's Scott here. Did you know that the members of my real estate team, W Realty Group, are listening to their own voices that call to adventure by setting big goals? Some of those goals include planning trips to Bali and the Kingdom of Bhutan, buying investment homes, and running the Chicago Marathon. At W Realty Group, we support and encourage these big goals and want to help turn them into reality. We're currently looking to add new members to the team. If you know a great real estate agent in the Charlotte, North Carolina area that would benefit from being part of our team, please send a text, an email, or give me a call. And know that when you support W Realty Group, you're also supporting this podcast. Thanks for listening. Yeah, it's amazing. So, you brought up prison, your experience in prison. So I wonder if we could just kind of rewind, and just for context of listeners, can we talk about that and how you ended up there?
I'll try to keep that short. You guys want to hear more? Buy the book, Muay Thai. It's all in there. Pretty much when I graduated high school, I had a high school sweetheart. I was a senior. She was a junior. So I graduated. She became a senior, and she was from Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
She was actually half Native American, and her mom was in Wyoming. Her mom was dying of cancer, so she had to leave to go live with her mom because her mom had like 6 months to live. And she's like, I want to go be my mom. So, of course, she asked me if I would go. Me being a loyal person I was, of course, I'm not gonna let you go by yourself and go through that. So I went up there with her. We took care of mom, things like that. We ended up getting a situation where her mom died, and we were about to be homeless. Our car broke down. I'm from a poor family. I called home. Nobody could help out in any kind of way. This is Wyoming. I don't know if you're familiar with Wyoming. It gets 30, 40 below up there. You get what's called whiteout. It snows so much you can't see in front of your face. So the winter's coming up, and what ended up happening, we ended up pulling armed robbery. And so and that's what ended up landing me in prison. And of course, there's a lot of details that goes behind how the robbery happened, why the decision was made, how it went down, and all that kind of stuff that really show a lot about my character and my personality. Because even when I went into prison, of course, you're forced, a lot of people try to force you to follow what's called the convict code and things like that. I got into a lot of arguments with people because I would tell them, let me tell you something, I'm not a criminal. I do not belong here. I just committed a crime. I'm not about, I don't like hurting people. I'm not trying to sell dope to the neighborhood so I can have rims on my car or none of that crap. I'm just in the wrong place. So they're not trying to pull me in that game. I don't play that, and like I say, even through prison, I didn't join any gangs or anything like that. I was always my own gang, and people knew that, you got something with me. I got no problem dealing with you and all your boys and everybody else in the crew, but you're not going to put me in a position where I'm going to become a bad person because I'm afraid of you. That's not happening.
Your time in prison, I mean, there's so much that we could talk about there. You've had like fighting in you, training and experience through your whole life. And when you got to prison, you were actually able to use all of that for good inside prison. And I wonder, like, to impact the other inmates. And I just wonder if you could kind of speak to that a little bit.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this first. When I learned that I was going to be going in for 2, 5 to 7 years, and I actually got sentenced, and I was standing in court, and the judge sentenced me, and I just kind of, and he's like, "All right, you ready?" Blah blah blah. I said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." And then he like looked at me. He's like, "I just sentenced you to 5 to 7 years in prison. You're 18 years old, and you're not even flinching. Do you even care about your life?" I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I care about my life." I said, "But I know that I have to go to prison. So I've planned to, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes. I'm not getting tattoos. I'm not doing drugs in there. I'm going to try to get in school. I'm going to lift weights. So I'm prepared to go. That's what I have to do." And he looked at me, said, "I've never heard anyone say anything like that." He said, "If you keep that attitude, young man, you're going to come out a great person." So I mean, I wish the judge could see me now. He'd be like, "I'd be like, see, you predicted the future, Your Honor."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so when I went in, 2 really good stories of what you're saying. This was a really good one. While I was there, I was sent to the prison farm. I was sent to Horse Hill, which is where you train wild Mustangs. And I mean, people get tore up there. You always got an ambulance taking somebody out because a horse, they don't play. They'll take you out quick. And so I had yet learned to buck a horse. I had only rode probably 4 or 5, trained horses. And it was my job to learn how to train. They always buck, throw you and stuff. And I seen them when they were walking this horse called Thunder. He was like one of the biggest horses up there. And they were walking, one of the cowboys was walking to a trailer. And I was just walking, and I was, I'm probably 20, 21, I mean, ripped because I'm lifting weights. I'm just built like the Incredible Hulk, and I still got that smart mouth black guy St. Louis attitude. You know what I'm saying? I had it. Yeah. I don't know how they put up with me in there. I was walking and I see him. I say, what you doing with Thunder, man? And the cowboy, he's a seasoned cowboy. I mean, been doing his whole life. He's, runs the horse here. He's like, take him to the glue factory, bam, bam. I said, but the glue factory? I said, what is that? They said, they're going to make glue out of him. And I'm like, what do you mean make glue out of him? Say, then somebody else, another cowboy, they're going to kill him. I said, kill him? Why would you kill a horse? He just says he's sick. He said, no, you can't ride him. He's untrainable. So I said, well, just let him go then. Put him back out, back on the mountain. We had a mountain we got him from. They said, no, we don't want him to breed other ones like him. So I'm not liking the sound of that. I'm like, what? I said, well, wait a minute, man. I say, so because he won't let you ride him, you gonna kill him? They said, yeah, he's untrainable. He started kind of getting an attitude. I said, I thought cowboys loved horses, man. You see that on movies all the time. They said, but if you can't ride him, bam, bam, so they kind of get mouthy. And they, he said, what, you think you can ride him or something? And so I get mad. I say, I don't ride horses. I beat little punks loud mouth at motherfucker. So they get me. I get triggered. What, you want something, you mother? And of course, they all back down. because they knew. So I'm like, yeah, mother. So I'm walking away, and it hit me. I always got this voice that talked to me, and not a voice you hear like some people, but this thing, and it said, Jermaine, you didn't do anything. All you did was feed your ego. That horse is still going to die. And it hit me. I said, okay, so what is my intention here? Is it to save the horse? And I said, hey, and the guy's like, yeah. I said, get my saddle. I'm going to ride him. And the whole horse hill just went dead quiet. All these cowboys. I mean, real cowboys, Wyoming. They looking like, what? Oh, he's lying. He's like, you really serious, man? I said, yeah, take him in the round pen. I'm going to ride him. And they're like, wow. So they all started to spread word. So all these people are gathering, and they take the horse, they put my saddle on them, they leg them up, because never get on a horse that's wild. You tie one leg up so they don't buck while you're getting on. They buck while you're getting on, you step through the stirrup, they'll run, they'll kill you. They'll run you to death. They think you're a snake at their feet. They will not stop running until you're dead. Somebody shoots that horse. And so I'm sitting, I'm like, they leg them up, I climb on the horse, and they untie him, he takes off. I mean, I probably got about $3 in, throws me off. I fly off, hit my head on the round pen, land in a puddle of piss and horses. I get up, everybody's laughing at me, just cracking up. Ah! And I get up, I'm dusting off. I'm like, man, and everybody's like, hey, you want to try again? And I'm sitting there, I say, yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, this horse, and they say, well, he's going to go again. So now I'm starting to get a little bit more, to get some respect now. He's going to get back on, and then people saying, Bam, you need to be careful, man. He's going to kill you. I said, no, he ain't. And they're like, well, leg him up. I said, no, don't leg him up. He said, you sure? I said, no, he's tired of being tied up. I don't know where this came from. It's like I said, it's always something that speaks through me. And I'm like, tired of being tied up, man. Leave him like that. And they said, all right, Bam. So you got this lead rope that's, on their harness. And I go up to grab the lead rope, and he rears up, So I said, I yanked that rope, pull him to the ground. I said, look, man, you got to let me ride you or they're going to kill you. And I said, I pulled him out. I said, I ain't scared of you. You got to let me ride you or you are dead. I don't know why I said it. I didn't believe this animal could understand me. And so I go, and then I got one guy just holding his head so he don't circle out on me. Put my foot in the stirrup, get on top of him. He takes off. Whoa, he's moving. Did not buck. I'm like, oh, so I'm riding. And there you hear these cowboys, throwing them passages. I'm like, man, I said, no, well, he's got to buck because, I'm an extremist. You bucked me off. We're going to ride. We got to buck. And so I'm kicking them. I'm hitting them, and they say, kick him in the flanks, Bam, kick him in the flanks, that's where you don't kick a horse. That makes him buck. And so I reach back, kick him back in the flanks. He would not buck. And so I'm riding him, and I stop him. He's sitting there, and he's just kind of moving around. I said, I want him to buck. I got to get all the buck out of him so y'all don't kill him. So a guy comes in with a rope, and I say, come on, get him moving. He smacks him on the butt with the rope. And I'm riding and kick. He would not buck. And I told the guy, I said, just snake him, which is you throw the rope at the horse's feet. Yeah. They think it's a snake. And that's when they really go crazy. You throw the rope at the horse's feet, horse still would not buck. Just running, I'm controlling, moving them. Man, I finally got off the horse, and they're like, everybody's clapping. Oh, wow. And I'm just like, what in the hell did I just do? And I get off, and I just walk away. And after that horse never bucked anybody. That horse ended up getting sold to a good family, man.
I can't help but take that back to the Hornets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, the Hornets, because you developed this fearlessness, right? And it was just like the Hornets with your brother.
Yep.
I love that so much. Okay. The second piece while you were in prison was the training that you did with the other inmates. Can you talk about that?
Yes. And the way that started was really awesome. I actually got sent to solitary confinement for a year. Very long story. I led an uprising in the prison, went against the governor. You can even look, I sued the governor of Wyoming. Didn't win, of course not, but that was my first fight in court, starting to,
Nice.
stuff. So anyway, I was in solitary confinement for a year. And when I say an uprising, it was a peaceful one. I actually got in trouble for stopping a riot. I was the one who brought all the gangs and the races together. And so what happened was that scared the administrators that I had that kind of control. I ended up learning. Somebody taught me that the fact that I could do that with just my voice, and they couldn't even do it with their guns. They didn't like that at all. So I got snatched off the yard. But while I was down there, the inmates, you're on the tier, there's 12 cells. And you're behind a locked door, locked down 23 hours a day. They open one cell door at a time for you to go take a shower. You got a shower at the end. And if you behave, they'll let you just kind of walk around and talk to some of the other inmates in their cells. You got what's called a bean chute where they serve you your food. You see it in movies all the time. Well, it's got a flap. And if everybody's behaving, they'll leave the flap down so you can You can see each other and talk to each other. A lot of times the inmates, of course, get into it with the guards down there. And one time they went into it with the guards, and a bunch of the inmates on the tier, they're burning and throwing stuff at the guards, harassing the guards. And well, I never participated in that, and then one of the inmates, he said to me, he said, "Hey, Bam Bam," after everything happened, I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He said, "Why don't you ever harass the guards with us?" So I'm like, "Oh crap." I said, "Well, first of all, because they ain't messing with me. I'm not gonna mess with them." So he says, "They aren't messing with you. They're the ones got you locked up." I said, "No, I got me locked up when I stuck a gun in somebody's face for money. That's my responsibility, And so the other guy, the guy who had confronted me the first time, always getting in the crap, just always getting in the crap. From there, it led up to me and that guy, the main guy talking crap, becoming kind of like friends. Mm-hmm. And one day we all bully each other, pick on each other, we tease each other. And he's like, "I'm gonna kick your butt." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Man, I'll rack my cell, when you are out on your flag, of course, as inmate, we knew how to open our cell doors. We could break in and out of anywhere we wanted to. First of all, the inmates are the ones who built the prison. You know what I'm saying? They built all the stuff. So we know how to do things." So one day he's out on his flag and I popped my door and I ran down his cell. He's like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" I said, "What you say? You gonna whoop my wife?" And so he started with play fight. Well, I'm just, treat him like a 2-year-old. So he starts getting mad and he's, and I'm like, done. I throw him down. I'm holding him, give him a noogie and I run back to my cell and close the door. And I hear him. He's like, "Bam, Bam." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" "Man, you whooped my, I said, "I was just playing with you." He said, "Bam, I know." He said, "In the end, I wasn't playing, man." I said, "You what?" He said, "I was really trying to fight you." I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, I didn't even know you were really trying to fight me." He said, "That's what I'm saying, man. You were just playing with me." And I said, "Well, that's that martial arts stuff." He said, "Well, can you teach me?" And I said, "No." I said, "No." I said, "This is stuff for honor, man. This stuff for protecting people. It's not you're going to go home and beat your wife or stab somebody again and stuff like that." He said, "If you teach me, I won't do that." I said, "Whatever, dude. You." I said, "You're lying to me." He said, "I'm not a liar. I keep my word." And I said, "Well," I said, "I have heard that about you." And then I said, "Okay, all right, Mr. Keep Your Word." I said, "You start saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am, to the guards down here, I'll train you." So I thought that was going to shut him down. I'm saying, mind my own business. A couple of days pass and, I'm listening. And I hear a guard in his cell. He's, "Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. No, sir." I'm like, "No way." And then, of course, one of the guys like, "Hey, Bam, you hear him down there?" I said, "I hear that. No way." And so then I said, "Oh, I got to train this guy now." So I got to say my word, So I'm like, "Oh man," but so then I connected with him. I told him, I said, "Look, this is how it goes, dude. This belongs to the people." When I say the people, I'm talking everybody. I said, "I would train a police. I'll train these guards here if they wanted training." So you got to get rid of all your bias. This ain't got nothing to do with race or none of that stuff. The martial arts is pure. And so you cannot get any write-ups. You cannot get in trouble. You can't even cuss anymore. "I agree, sir." And so after that, probably about 4 or 5 more of them down there signed up for me, and I trained them down in solitary. Well, the guards saw how well behaved my tier was, and so they pulled me out. Mr. Peace Leader, who came to solitary confinement for leading people peacefully, And so they pulled me out. They're like, "Man, what are you doing down there? Mr. Andre, to get those guys to behave. How'd you make them?" I said, "Wait, first of all, I ain't making nobody do anything. They control their own self. So don't start putting more years on me now." They said, No. We're not mad." They said, "We know what happened to you out there. That was political. This is us, Jermaine. Don't even worry about it." I said, "All right, what?" He said, "We really appreciate it. We hear you guys, the way you got the guys being respected." He said, "Do you need anything?" I said, "Yes, I do." "Yes, I do." I said, "Can we get a TV for the Super Bowl?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem. We'll put a TV down there for you guys for Super Bowl." I'm like, "Oh, this is good." I said, "Okay." And then, I like to have all vegetarian meals and some of those guys too, so they can get better fit. We can get that worked out for the kitchen. So we just get everything worked out good like that. So I got this group of guys and they're just getting, I got to do push-ups and they get ripped down there, got to meditate and just become these great people. So we come out, get out on the yard, and the yard one pulls me in and says, "Hey, Bam, hey, man, I heard about what you did in solitary. How'd you think about doing that out here? You want to run a school out here?" I'm like, "Yes." And so he gave me the gym for like 3 hours a day. He said, "It's yours for 3 hours a day. You guys can train on the floor, whatever you want to do, this and that." And the real good catch is he said to me, he said, "I'll let you do it, but only one condition. When these tough guys come here, can I send them to you?" I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "I know the toughest guys you got. I'm not playing with the martial arts. I want to test this stuff." I said, "But the only thing is you have to let us fight bare knuckle." He said, "Oh, no." He said, "I can't do that. You'll kill somebody." I said, "No." I said, "Think about why you brought me here. I'm not out to kill anybody. But these guys are the real deal, man. This ain't no joke. These guys coming in here, they the real deal. So I have to show them that this is the real deal." I got to let them challenge me and try to take me out, try to take the guys out so they can respect that and believe in their heart that this is real. Then they'll bow in, and then I can have better control. I said, but it can't be no katas in the air and just doing that kind of stuff, which that stuff is beautiful in certain places. I said, but this is maximum security. You know what I'm saying? So he said, all right, bam, you can do it. And so I started in there, man, and it was beautiful. Even something really cool is to become an instructor under me, you had to actually fight me bare knuckle until you could knock me out or I knocked you out. And so I had probably about 5 people that crossed that path, and actually fought. And they all got knocked out, of course, but they really tried to fight me. And I would make them fight me. I mean, they were afraid of me, because especially when they see what I do to one of the other instructors. And so when they come to me, I say, this how it goes. And I'd get hit and get hurt a little bit, but of course I knew what I was doing more, and I'd catch him and knock him out. So, but that's where it all started at.
Yeah. Jermaine, did you experience or witness, I mean, I'm sure you did, just positive transformation based on your actions and what you did there with those inmates?
So positive that I have guys out here right now who, that was 20 years ago or so, right now, who have families, running construction companies, driving trucks, entrepreneurs, still talk to me today. Very, very positive transformation. It gave them something to believe in, a way to believe in themselves, and to understand that self-control was the ultimate toughness, not flying off the handle and losing it, and even understanding how to truly win a fight. Because the whole time that I had that group, we were respected and admired by all the inmates, and not because we could fight, we were tough. Anybody can get stabbed in the back, but because of the respect everybody showed. You got all these older guys who are lifers in there who usually can't stand young guys, because young guys always being stupid and challenging them. And, you got my guys, yes, sir, into them and being nice to them. And they're like, man, I feel, getting the respect as an elder that they didn't even get respect from their own family, on the streets. So I saw that change. And that's one of the things that has made me fearless today. I will go anywhere to talk to anyone. I just spoke at Yateman little middle school here in St. Louis, in North City. That's in the middle of North City, St. Louis. Even when I was going to go there, somebody was like, oh man, it's a rough school. I said, you better think about who you're talking to. I said, I'm from Beirut. I was in solitary confinement with you, and I watched this work like magic, that you give somebody some respect and show them they have value, and give them a sense of belonging to a power that is a power that follows a code of honor, and a code of self-control, integrity, things like that. They flip quick and immediately.
Yeah. And what about you personally? What did prison do for you? What transformation did you personally experience there?
Man, I always say this: I was not arrested; I was rescued. I would never give my prison experience back for $100 million.
Wow.
It helped me discover who I was. Well, first, it calmed me down. When I was fighting all the time, and when weapons were getting involved, I was the one who would always go further than my enemy. You have to, or else your enemy's gonna go further, you take you out. So I knew that. So I was wound up tight.
We've spent a lot of time talking about what was a slice of your life, but you've had like such a full life of experience from your childhood. Prison was just a piece of that. And then you came out and you have a whole career within MMA. And, we like to talk on this podcast about this concept of the hero's journey. It's this whole life experience, and everything builds to the next moment in your life. And it just seems like so much of what's happened to you in your life, you've actually taken advantage of that to continue to grow and bring into the next thing. So, I wonder if we could maybe just in a compressed format, could you just give us kind of an overview of once you got out of prison and your MMA career?
Well, when I got out, again, the MMA career is a long story, because I was a pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was one of the first. So first of all, it was illegal everywhere. Even I lived in Missouri, you could only fight in Illinois, but they had rules where you couldn't punch to the face on the ground. You could only hit the body on the ground, but you could do everything else. So it was, first of all, sometimes you go to a show that you trained for 3 months for, and there'd be a group of people petitioning, church people or something like that, and they'll shut it down. Sometimes the cops will come shut it down. Sometimes the police come shut it down, and the promoter would get into a fight with the cops, tell them, get out of here. You can't shut crap. So it was so much around it. There were no weight classes. Sometimes there was no time limit. And I can even remember fighting one fight I was known for my leg kicks because I was Muay Thai, and I'm pow kicking it, pow tearing people up and busting their legs. So I broke a guy's femur bone in one of the fights. So the next fight I came, they said I couldn't use leg kicks. And I'm like, what? So they would just constantly take weapons from me. And then another one, I hit a guy with an elbow and cracked his skull, fractured his skull. So the next fight, they said you can't use elbows. So it was real just unorganized. The pay was really low. I can remember one time driving to Carbondale from St. Louis and fighting there for $75, but my hotel bill was $150. So it was really, really hard. As I was fighting, I was working as a bodyguard, a bouncer, and a janitor. So my most dangerous things, I almost died many times on the road. I mean, that's why I have a really strong belief in a higher power and God, because I would fall asleep at the wheel and I would wake up flying off an off ramp. I mean, I could say probably 5 to 6 times this happened to me. And not once did I hit anybody or hurt anybody. I mean, you're talking flying 60, 70 miles an hour because I'm driving, because I would train, then I would go to work as a bouncer. Then right after that, sometimes it was a little small bodyguard, and then I was a janitor. Then I would sleep on my mom's floor where my sisters were getting up to go to school. So I'd be trying to sleep on the floor right there in the living room while they're stepping over me. And I sleep for about 4 or 5 hours, then have to get up again and go back. So that I was constantly doing that. Plus I'm tired from training, and I'd be driving and fall asleep at that wheel and just, so it was really, really difficult. A lot of the fight leagues you'll see that I held my titles in. Right when I got the titles, after that, the league shut down. So I was the star. I was their guy. All right. And then just, things that were so hard, things just go wrong, and the league was shut down. So it was really disheartening, and unmotivating. But the one thing I always knew is you just don't stop. You don't ever quit, because if you quit right now, then you become the worst version of yourself. So no matter what your circumstances are, number one, there's always somebody out there who will trade lives with you. I always say that. There's somebody out there who's saying, well, you can have my life and I'll take yours then. So I always say, don't ever cry more for yourself than you do for somebody else. And also, I followed the code of Bushido. So I look at myself as samurai. I was a servant on a servant's path. And my servant path was to, at that time, to fight MMA when I could, where I could, because I wanted to better my skill, so that when I'm teaching somebody self-defense, I'm not teaching them crap that don't work. Mm-hmm. I'm saying this will work against somebody who's trying to attack you and knock your head off. So if that happens to you in the alley, you can count on using this.
You've got 7 titles.
Yes.
What can you talk us through that kind of progression from those early days up to that sort of pinnacle of your career?
I think first 3 or 4 titles were the SFC. And that was a league actually started by Brian Madden, and he was incredible. He was a Dana White, great ideas. He actually designed his type of fighting where it was going to make it into the Olympics. It was going to the Olympics. It was going to become an Olympic sport. And right when his organization was peaking, I was actually one of his superstars on there, because I was what's called a striker. Mm-hmm. Most people were into the jiu-jitsu back then, and the audience didn't know what they were doing. They thought it was high school wrestling. So a lot of times the fighters would get booed, but they come right in and they would just both clinch up and they're just wrestling around on the ground. Then somebody would tap out, the referee holding the hand up. Everybody say, what was that? But when I came out, I wouldn't go to the ground, people. I wouldn't let them take me to the ground. Boxing and kicking them. So I was his superstar. Well, we were right on the verge of things just blowing up, and then he ended up passing away. So when he passed away, that kind of just left me, because he's my manager also, just kind of out there. But then Monty Cox stepped in and tried to take over and help me, but I lived in St. Louis, which is where my great trainer, Ron Smith, was from. And I wasn't going to leave him. I was bound by loyalty always. A lot of people tried to get me. I know Frank Shamrock tried to get me to come to California with him. Pat Militesh, them tried to get me to come to Iowa with them and be on their team. They say, all your fights be on the UFC, you come with us. And I know they would have got it. They would have made it happen, but Ron was the one who trained me well after I came out of prison and, tied me up with things. So I'm not leaving my guy. That's not happening. This is not just about a successful career. This is about my life and the message that I'm sending. So then I ended up actually my first world title was Japanese world title, because I fought in Japan, fought in Hawaii, fought in Canada, other countries. It was a lot of it was legal. And actually, when I won that title, and that was pretty fun, because everything was young. And I was actually hanging with the Yakuza the whole time over there. You got these guys, all these black limos and black Mercedes Benzes and everybody's kids with all the frosted hair. It was really cool, so they just food everywhere, everybody, all these gorgeous girls and all this stuff. So it was awesome. But then that league ended up shut down right after I won the world title. I'm the guy. But I won a really important U.S. title, the ISKA U.S. title, doing what's called Chinese Sanshao kickboxing. I actually got put into the fight and I was fighting Kieta Muhammad. They thought he was going to beat me. And they didn't know that I knew judo, because everything I was doing, I was always knocking people out. I would hide my other way. I wouldn't use it unless I have to use it. So I never showed it. So man, this guy fought, and I'm in a suplexing this guy, boom, hip tossing him, bow, just throwing him all over the place. And I was actually supposed to fight Kung Lee for the the world title. When I win this, Kung Lee was the North American U.S. champion, and I was like fighting for the U.S. I don't know, some weird continent or whatever. And whoever won that, we supposed to fight for the world. He was his. I was supposed to win that. Well, I beat the guy, but from what I'm hearing, and this happened a lot in the fight game, when they saw me doing those throws at the time, Kung Lee, they said Jermaine Popsy could beat him, so I never got the fight. And that was really, really frustrating. So I'm like, man, come on, because they're going to, of course, they're always going to set the fights up for who they hope wins, especially when you got promotion behind it, which Kung Lee, you can see, went on to have a great career. He fought the UFC. He's been in movies, everything. So he was promoted and managed well. But I think that would have been a really good fight between he and I. And then I ended up finally getting the fight for the world title in Las Vegas, the first MMA sanctioned world title. And I won that won in 22 seconds. And after I won that, they had one more show, and I'm going to tell you, the WFA has some good fighters, man. I mean, dangerous. Dang, when I won that title, and people ask me, they're like, man, why'd you happy? I say, because all of them looking at me now, I'm looking at these guys, and they just doing it. They were like me. I'm like, man, it's really going to get serious. And then that league closed down, so everything was so bad back then. Everything was just shutting down. So you building up, real frustrated. All this work you'd have done, and then you get nothing out of it. Except, a belt and a good reputation, of course. So eventually I started trying to run my own show, and that went okay. And then I stopped fighting because, I've got pins and staples in my left foot. They've been there since I was about 15 years old. And so my foot was starting to go bad. I was starting to have back problems, just my whole life, lifting weights, fighting on the streets, everything else. And I said, you know what, man, first of all, I was never a fighter. I don't like fighting. I just can fight, and I use fighting as a tool to go to protect. I'm not a guy who wants to go and just beat people up. I never liked that. And I realized that I don't want my life to be hurting people. I don't want to get paid to just beat the crap out of somebody. That's not me. So I said, I need to go back to instruction. So that's why I stopped fighting. I said, I'm going back to instructing, back to the community. I'm here to help citizens. That's the main thing I was good at anyway. I just have to be able to fight.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that. It's a great pivot point, because you have had, we started this talking about like fearlessness and developing this fearlessness. And, it seems to me that, your ability, you're tough, man. I'm not, I never want to mess with you, man. Like, you've developed this ability to defend yourself, to protect others. Like, you have this gift, right? But like, I've studied your website. Like, for example, one thing that you say on your website is the greatest technique we can execute on another is kindness.
That's right.
And yep. I've heard you talk about compassion, and I just would love for you to kind of expound on that a little bit, because if somebody on the surface looks at some of the stuff that we've been talking about and then reads a quote like that, they might be confused. And so I'm curious, like, can you speak to that?
Oh, definitely. If you really, trying to be a true martial artist, a war strategist, because martial means war. So that's a war artist, an artist of war. The whole idea is to win. And how do you win? You win by protecting your people, not by destroying others, because you ain't ever destroy everybody, because you might destroy them and your people fall apart while you were doing it. Or I destroy him, but I got both my legs cut off in the process. What kind of life is that? So the best way to win a fight is for the fight not to happen. Because I always tell people nobody wins a street fight. Because even if, like you say, me and you, I'm a tough guy, me and you get into it, I blah, 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 you take that, Scott. And then you, oh, okay. And I walk away. And then 3 days from now, you go get a gun and come up to me and say, hey, Jermaine, yeah, boom, and blow me away. So anybody can find leverage to be stronger than someone else. So when you treat a person with kindness, that is the first step of self-defense, is to not be offensive, to not agitate something, to not give someone a reason to want to attack you. And that's you're stopping the attack. And of course, if I can stop the attack, that's almost like a force field. So my force field is kindness. When I'm kind to someone, it disarms, it disarms their jealousy, it disarms their paranoia, it disarms their discomfort. You allow them to feel comfortable and relax. It's, then now you're so far away from even getting into a fight with them. So kindness, if we all are kind to each other, that could stop a lot of stuff like that from happening. And then compassion is, if I always say this when I meet someone, I don't know what that person been through. And, if I had to go through what that person been through, I might be 10 times worse than that person is now. That person may be 100 times stronger than I ever could be. And if I knew what he went through or she went through, I might admire that person. So I'm always just holding that compassion, that not even knowing what they've been through. I know they've been through something. Everybody has. That's what we're on this planet for as human beings. So I know you've been through something. So just because I can't put my finger on it and say, oh my God, that's horrible, doesn't mean it wasn't something horrible. So that compassion is automatically there when I meet somebody. I say, the last thing I want to do is mistreat this person. And then, and treat them wrong, and then find out later that this person went through all of this and survived it. And Jermaine, you just triggered it because you've been a jerk. You know what I'm saying? So I keep that from ever happening by just having an automatic compassion for everybody that I run into.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I want to kind of start to wrap up here by talking a little bit about where you are today, what you're doing in your career. And then we can kind of get into the fun piece of how we actually met.
I've got a youth program where I take 13-year-old boys, and I'm helping them to cross over to become men. I tell the parents, I say, at age 13 with a boy, that's when they're trying to become a man. And the first thing to becoming a man is get away from their parents. So they try to mentally separate themselves from their parents. They start, and that's where everybody, I want to kill my teenager. Oh my God, my teen hates me. I said, no, they don't hate you. It's just you're an insult to them becoming a man in their mind. So I bring them in. I teach them how to defend themselves. I teach them, I boost their character, teach them respect, teach them compassion, obedience, teach them how to control their minds, meditation, take them to meet the local police, hang out with the chief police, and all that crap people tell y'all about, cops and this and that. Of course, there's bad cops, bad, mailmen, bad checkout counters, bad everything, bad martial artists, what I'm saying? Bad and good everything. But you can control what happens between you and a police officer by the way you act and behave, because I've done it too many times to count, where things just turn out incredible between me and a police officer because I treat them like a brother instead of like an enemy. So I teach them all that, I teach them about their parents. I say, look, your parents did all this for you. I know some of you guys, your parents may not even be taking care of you like they're supposed to, but you're going to learn about what's called self-resilience. And it's your time to learn how to take care of yourself, because it may be your job to take care of your parents. So I'm really empowering these kids to come up strong, and I make them tough. They fight. I teach them how to box, and we put the gloves on. They put a mouthpiece in. I say, go.
Jermaine, we didn't even scratch the surface today. There's so much depth to your story. There's so many more stories. You're an author. You've got this book that I'm working on right now, Muay Tiger. I'm about 80 pages in. I can't wait to keep going with that. But, other ways that people can learn more about you.
JermaineAndre.com.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And just want to kind of give a shout out to our podcast producer, Ryan Dean, who put us together. Ryan is also the inventor and creator of a self-defense tool called the Peacekeeper. And this is a product that that you're very heavily involved with. I'd love for you to just kind of share a little bit with listeners about the Peacekeeper.
This is what's so cool about Peacekeeper. This is a great story. I made a video probably, 15 years, a long time ago.
Yeah.
My daughter was in town, and because my daughter, she grew up in Hawaii, and I brought her to St. Louis, and she was in town, and she was asking me about people attacking people with keys. Dad, can that work? Because people want to do this and fight somebody with keys. And I said, get the camera. Let's make a video about this. And so I made a video. I'm gonna send you the video too.
Cool.
And I'm talking about, I said, it's fine what you got with the key, but I'm showing how you can hold it and you can make it work. All these weird things you can do with it, that I said, but you can't put it here because it'll break down. You hit something, it's not going to hold because of the handle. So I say the most important thing about any weapon is the handle. A gun, a knife, a sword, even a stick. You have to have a good handle, and a key has no handle. So Ryan saw that video, strangely. I don't know how. I put it on YouTube, and he messaged me. He's like, hey, I saw that video. He starts talking all this stuff. Peacekeeper asking, hey, would you be willing to, help us with the creation? Like, test it, and endorse it, this and that. And I said, yeah, I'm in, man. I'll help you out. So he starts sending, prototypes. I'm testing. We breaking stuff and going through it. And he keeps sending it back. And, and Christian, I think Christian's a designer. I mean, genius. This guy that just keeps on rebuilding these things. Rebuilding. That's the old version there. And we just redid it.
Yeah, and just a side note for people that are listening and can't see the video, the Peacekeeper is essentially a specially designed case for your key that's got a little handle grip that twists, and it essentially turns your key into a self-defense tool.
And so here's the fun part. So Ryan Dean we're communicating back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get a lot of messages from people. And a lot of them I don't respond to, and most of them I don't take super seriously unless I know you. The whole time I'm dealing with Ryan Dean, I think it's Ryan Dean from Channel 5 St. Louis. Ryan Dean from Channel 5 St. Louis, me and him are, we're great associates. I've been on his show 3 or 4 times. So he's talking about making this Peacekeeper thing. I'm like, why is Ryan Dean into making weapons? I'm like, okay, that's my boy. I'm with it. And then maybe we can do a TV special about it. I'm thinking this, and all this stuff. And then I finally end up realizing, I can't remember when I realized that this was somebody totally different.
Yeah.
So I called her. I called her. I said, Ryan, I thought you were another Ryan Dean. I didn't know you were something. I tell her, I thought you were this news report. I say, that really shows that we are connected on this project, because I probably wouldn't even really responded to you.
Yeah.
There's some guy asking me, because people hit me up with stuff like that all the time, on Facebook Messenger. I said, the fact that I thought you were this reporter made me give you my attention. And so he's like, well, are you still in? I said, yeah. No, this is the best idea, the best weapon ever. And I got to say it. I say, I don't recommend Peacekeeper because I endorse it. I endorse Peacekeeper because I recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the best ideas for a self-defense tool for everybody, for, adults, for teenagers, college kids, and you can take it anywhere with you.
Yeah. It's small, it's simple, it's very easy to carry. Yeah. Thank you for the work that you're doing on this. And for listeners, we'll have a link to Peacekeeper in the show notes as well. Jermaine, I really want to thank you. We could talk for hours. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. One thing that I ask everybody that comes on this podcast, you have had an epic life with so much more for people to learn. And I know Hollywood at some point is going to make a movie about your life. And when they do, I want to know who's going to be the Hollywood actor that's going to play you in your movie.
Ooh, I'm not much of a TV watcher, but Michael Jordan Jr.
Nice.
I played the bad guy in Black Panther.
Okay.
I think he could be a good Jermaine because of his manner. He's got that woof manner.
I love it. Yeah. What's your movie going to be called?
Well, I mean, either have to be Muay Tiger. That's what I have to call it.
Perfect. I love it. Muay Tiger. Jermaine, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for all the wisdom. Thank you for spending some time with me today. For those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. I hope Jermaine's story has encouraged you to listen to that voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thanks for listening. Jermaine, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening.